Good evening and welcome to the Huddy Hui, episode 83. We'll talk about some first 15 rugby that happened around the country this afternoon. But our first guest is someone who will be extremely happy with his old school, winning at one of the hardest grounds in first 15 rugby, and that is the Gully at New Plymouth Boys High School. Jonny Bentley is our guest on the Huddy Hui tonight. Jonny, fantastic having you on. I hear you're enjoying the rays over there in Australia.
Try my best, mate. Try my best. But yeah, no, really happy to be able to sit here and have a chat with you, Brad.
So, of course, you've played at the Gully a few times. Tell us about your experience against New Plymouth Boys there.
Mate, I think I only had one experience at the Gully, and that would have been in my sixth form year or my year 12 year, and it wasn't very pleasant. I think New Plymouth Boys put about 30 points on us. I'm not sure we scored any. But it was a pretty, in terms of the game, we got it handed to us a little bit. But it was a pretty awesome experience seeing their first 15 come through that tunnel and the school all up on the banks. And I do still have pretty vivid memories, to be fair, of that haka. And I remember looking around thinking, where's this coming from? Like it comes from in front of you, from above you, from behind you, just came from everywhere. So that was pretty awesome to see. And unfortunately, after that, it was still downhill. We didn't offer much that day. But I know, it's an awesome place to play.
So you reside over in Australia now. What do you do over there, Jonny?
So, mate, just been over here about 6 weeks. So I was in Barcelona for a few years before that. And came over with the missus. She's Italian, just for a bit of change of scenery. So just getting into a little bit of personal training. And I was doing some coaching and playing in Barcelona before arriving. So I'm just trying to keep on top of some coaching and still learn some stuff around that as well. So a bit of a sort of, I suppose, a transitional period coming out of playing and that. But enjoying it so far.
Let's go back to 2007. Yeah, the Westpac Stadium against Marist St. Pat's in the Jubilee Cup Final. And tell us about that winning feeling.
That's a way back now, but still remember that. It was, honestly, mate. I don't know the memories. They're a bit hazy. I remember, I think, who was it? Maybe it was, I don't know if it was Nick Risdon playing halfback, or if it was myself. Someone threw a bounce pass. And as they say, bounce passes are undefendable. And I think Malachi Casino, he just fucking, excuse my language, he scooped it up. And
that's right, you won't get cancelled.
And when, no worries. And he went under the black dot, I think. And after that was about it. We snuck home, and we had a good couple of days afterwards as well, and a good couple of nights. But that was a pretty awesome feeling. I was pretty young back then, and I just remember that season with Huddy Boys. There was a real awesome family feel around that team, and sort of towards the back end, the club rooms were always busy, and there was always boys in there, and we used to come in on Sundays to do a little bit of recovery, and some guys would put a few saucies on for the boys, and it was a real awesome environment that season, and that was probably the icing on the cake, really, winning the Jubilee Cup to finish that year.
Adam Campbell was the coach of the team that year. Tell us about him.
Yep. Oh, he's a good man. Ace is a very good man. I suppose, I've had a few dealings with him sort of since then as well. And, he was really good at bringing that crew together, I suppose. Like I sort of mentioned, there was a bit of that family feel around it. And he was good at being able to get the boys gelling together at that time. Really good for us as a team that season.
2007.
I know he's at the Rams now, isn't he?
Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah, he's at the Rams.
No,
That's
carry
right.
on.
Yeah, no, he's at the Rams. Are going pretty well. Third on the table. Not too bad.
I see that.
Yeah.
Eagles tipped him up a couple of weeks ago, though.
Oh, they did. I think they put a few points on them, that's for sure. So, of course, speaking about the Eagles, you did some work with them when you were briefly back in New Zealand. in their pre-season. They've had a tough start to the year, but they've been putting on some big scores the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's good to see. I sort of follow the results pretty closely. I know, these days it's pretty easy to jump on social media and see what's going on in there. And yeah, they did have a bit of a slow start to the season, but good to see they're bouncing back. And it's always good you got to finish the season strong, not start it strong anyway. If you're going to pick one of those, it's always better to come home with a bit of wind in your sails than the other way around.
2007, you're in the Wellington Academy. You're probably the best first five in club rugby in Wellington. You're on the verge of Lions selection. How come you didn't make it that year?
2007. I don't even think I was close, really, mate. Like, I think there was probably a bit of a gap between some of those club rugby players and the Lions at that time. I remember I went and held tackle bags one afternoon or one morning when they were sort of short a few guys, and that back line was like, I can't remember who would have been halfback, but it was like Jimmy Gopperth, Jose Aguirre, Martin Onu, probably Conrad Smith. I don't know if he was. Yeah, he would have been there. Corey Jane, like that caliber of backs, and at that time was like awesome. Playing. I don't know what it was back then. If it was ITM or Mitre 10 or NPC or what it was called, but yeah, back in 07 they had a class lineup, and it was awesome just to spend a day there and watch how they operated.
Ilva'a, who we'll talk about later in your career, offered you a chance to do something differently with your rugby career in 2008. Tell us what he offered you.
Yeah, he did. Well, sort of. I was just knocking around playing a bit of club footy, doing some study at uni, and I wasn't sort of super passionate about the career I'd chosen at that time. And I think there was a stage where Earl was named coach of maybe Wairarapa Bush, and he got me on the phone and he said, "Oh, mate, come over to the bush and play some heartland footy." And I'd spoke to a couple of guys who had done that like the season before. I think Nick Risdon might have done it already with Buller, and it sounded like good fun, to be honest. And I was like, "Yeah, mate, I'm in for that. Sign me up." And then I was sat in the law library down in Wellington one day, and I saw Earl's number pop up again, and I thought, man, how many times is this guy going to ring me? Like, I've already told him I'm keen to come over and play. He said, "Oh, mate, change your plan. I've got a gig in Japan. Are you keen to come?" And I said, "Oh, yep, sweet as." Done. So yeah, didn't play the start of that club season, and got on a plane, went over there, and it was definitely a tough experience rugby wise, but it was an awesome place to be, and yeah, loved it over there for a season. Right in the we were just on the outskirts of Tokyo, 20 odd minutes by train, like right into the heart of it, but really beautiful part of the world there as well. Lots of parks and greenery in that, and definitely a different experience for a 22-year-old Kiwi trying to work his way around Tokyo, coming out of Upper Hutt. And this was sort of, a little bit before, I'm sure my age a bit, but a little bit before iPhones and, Google Maps and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it was good times, though.
Have you ever been back to the Victoria University Library?
Never again. I walked out of there with my books, and that was the last time I'd ever been in there, to be honest.
So the Japan Top League, it's now quite a big competition, and it's changed a lot since your days. Do you still keep a following of the competition over there?
Yeah. I mean, I know there's sort of been quite a lot of change over the last couple of years with Japanese rugby and that, but yeah, the names just seem to be getting bigger and bigger, and the quality of rugby looks pretty fun. And there was I suppose like back, I think, I don't know how to explain it. Back then, no, there were still really big names, but now, like, you probably weren't getting guys who were still like right in the peak of their career, like going over, saying like Bowden Barrett, Damien McKenzie, those guys. I know Artie, Xavier, Aaron Smith, all those guys are going over. So it probably wasn't quite like that level back then. There was a few maybe, but not as many like sprinkled around all the teams. Although I know we came across Stephen Larkham in a friendly one day, and I was pretty, mouth was on the floor that day to see him on the other side of the field.
I hear you like tackling Radikisama.
Mate, he was a character, and I'm sure for anyone that can remember Radikisama, he's about 6'8" or whatever, huge afro. And these Japanese boys used to just fly at his knees. Like, he'd try and jump over him, and they would just come in sideways, kamikaze style. And once, man, they caught him by his bootlaces. He was about 2 feet, 3 feet in the air, and he just did this like somersault. You just saw this afro just turning through the sky, and he came down. It was hilarious, though.
Chris Sterling, who's now the director of rugby at St. Pat's Town and runs Rugby Code, offered you another exciting opportunity to play in England. Tell us about that time over there.
He did,
Pirates.
That would have been sort of the following season. Yeah, no, so I went over to Cornish Pirates after a season in Japan. And that was a completely different experience again, going from the bright lights of Tokyo to a small little village right in the southwest of England. So if you get on a train in London and you just go down to as far as you can, Penzance is literally last stop, it's end of the line. Sort of going one Sunday, walking through Shibuya Crossing with 20,000 people crossing every minute, to walking through Penzance High Street on a Sunday with about 3 people, a dog and some tumbleweed. It was a different experience, but I had a great time there. Those 2 years, I was there for 4 seasons, but I spent a couple injured towards the back end. But my first 2 years, I had a great time playing rugby, and there was a great group of guys there. I met some awesome mates, and I still keep in touch with them pretty regularly. And that was an awesome place to play, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I was lucky when I got there. I had Blair Cowan, who's one of my oldest mates, who we played rugby all the way from first 15 together, and he was already over there, so that made the transition settling in over there a bit easier as well. That was good fun.
And Blair Cowan, he's gone on to great honours with rugby union, particularly in Scotland.
Yeah, he really has, He really has. I always said that if there was one guy that I would imagine from my first 15 days at school that would not be a professional rugby player, then it would be Blair Cowan. But he proved us all wrong there. And when we were down there, we used to sit down and say, because I lived with him there as well, and we used to sit around the table and go, bro, imagine if you played for Scotland, And just sort of talk about it. And then he went up, he played awesome rugby at the Pirates. He went up to Worcester and then London Irish. And then all of a sudden, the selectors came knocking, and I think he got 20 odd caps in the end. And he's done awesome for himself. He's over captain in the San Diego Legion at the moment, and they're flying pretty high in the MLR. So he's still got some life in him, even though he's getting a bit long in the tooth.
You mentioned about injuries, and you had some pretty serious injuries that one season that kept you out for quite a while. Tell us about those injuries.
Oh, I've had a few, I suppose, through my career. There was, after playing, I played about 35 games in a season down in Cornwall, and I was absolutely buggered by the end of it. I think I played about 50 odd games in 2 years, and just caught up on the body, and I had my groins were gone, and I had a problem with my Achilles. I didn't fully rupture it, but I just sort of tore it, and when it healed, I had a spur on my heel, and the surgeon had to get in there and chisel that out. So that was about a 12-month turnaround. On top of the fact I'd already been out a couple of months, sort of trying to get that Achilles to heal. So there was a good period where I didn't play, which I sort of look back and I suppose I call it a career extender, because it just added a bit of life to the other end of my playing career, I suppose. But that wasn't the only one. There was a few others, but I suppose that's the nature of the beast when you're playing rugby. Some people are luckier than others, but yes, she's pretty physical.
What are the differences between playing rugby in the UK to New Zealand, particularly the conditions?
It's pretty wet and it's pretty cold in the UK. I know obviously New Zealand's not sort of impervious to some wet weather, especially down there in Wellington. Like it can blow sideways, but yeah, that can really, especially where I was playing most of my rugby in the second division and the championship there. You're pretty limited by the kind of footy you can play due to the fact that you're playing on a bog every week, and for that reason, coaches tend to play a little bit more of a forward-oriented game plan. That was probably not quite the case when I was with the Pirates, when Chris Sterling was running the cutter there. We used to like to throw the ball around a little bit, and we scored some really good tries and played some good footy. But I was definitely at some other clubs where there was one point where I was playing 10, and I suppose the only time, if the coach had his way, the only time I would touch the ball would be to kick for touch from a penalty, where we'd go for a line out, maul it, win another penalty, and just continue, rinse and repeat until we get to the 5 metre line, maul them over, kick a conversion, and then go back and start again. Yeah, so that was probably, I guess, sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry, mate. No, carry on, mate.
2013, you managed to play some top flight football in Europe. Tell us, playing at that level. 2013?
Oh, mate, yeah. No, so, well, I played a little. I didn't play much. I was at Gloucester for a season after sort of battling injuries for a couple of years, and managed to get myself fit and had an opportunity to go and play at Gloucester, where there was a couple. Who was there at that time? Jimmy Cowan was there. So yeah, it was good fun. Good fun there, especially with Jimmy around. But yeah, I sort of went there thinking Freddie Burns had just played for England. He just made his debut when they beat the All Blacks at Twickenham, and he was sort of going all guns a-blazing at that point. So I thought, oh, this will be awesome. When he goes away and plays for England, I'll hopefully get a good chance to play. And it just never really eventuated that way. He didn't get picked up with England, and he was always with Gloucester. Billy Twelvetrees, who's still there now, and he was a British line at the time. He sort of covered 10, so didn't play a great deal of footy, and probably was still a bit undercooked in terms of coming back from injury. It took me a year or so to really sort of get some confidence on my legs again after being out the game for so long and not being able to run or anything. But played a few games. I didn't play a premiership game. I played a Heineken Cup game and some other cup games. But yeah, managed to get a game at Munster in Limerick, which we played there pre-season as well. So I played a couple of games there. But that Heineken Cup experience there was pretty awesome, to be fair. You'd have, I don't know how many, it was about 35,000 fans, just full noise, and then you put the ball on the tee, and all of a sudden it just goes quiet, and you could hear a pin drop. I looked around and thought, what's going on here? If you close your eyes, you would have thought you're in an empty paddock. But yeah, it was a weird one, but hell of an experience, and they were a great side as well. So that was a good year. Plenty of learnings there as well, being in that Gloucester environment. It was good times.
2015, you returned home to Wellington as an opportunity opened up. We finally got to play for Wellington. How did that come about?
Yeah, again, that was just, I suppose, a bit of luck and a bit of good timing, I guess. I was in Jersey at that time, playing rugby. That was sort of, as I just mentioned, that 10-man rugby where I wasn't really getting much ball, and every time I did it, I threw a miss pass to the back, so I got in trouble for it. So I thought, probably time to head back somewhere where attacking rugby is a little bit more encouraged. And it just timed it well. Where Earl he got the gig with the Lions and was looking for a 10 as well. And I was just fortunate to be able to come home at that time and have a season with the Lions there, which, again, mate, it was a short stint there. Obviously, the ITM might 10 Cup. I always confuse which one it was and which one it is now. But that was an awesome time as well. Growing up, watching the Lions, as I mentioned, sort of back in 07, that backline, that star-studded backline, and some of the guys that played for them when I was a kid, I always watched them on telly. And it was cool to be able to wear that jersey and and play with some awesome names as well. Like that was still before Artie had really cracked it with the All Blacks, so he was there for a season, and just seeing how guys like him operated was just like amazing.
Wellington were in the championship that year. There was one team that got in the way, the Hawke's Bay Magpies. Tell us about that final.
I think we got a bit of a lead on them, to be honest. Like we were, we weren't like we were well prepared, and you know we went up there sort of pretty confident that we had the game to get over them. I think we drew earlier in the season. Might have been like they came down to Wellington, and I think we actually drew with them. And yeah, we were going all good, and it was sort of, mate, I still remember it. Like we were in the lead, and then clock was running down, and they just spread the ball side to side to side, and you know I could kind of see it happening before it happened. Oh no, they scored in the corner to go 1 point down, and mate, Huddy West, fair play. He's kicked some big goals, especially in the years since over in France and the Heineken Cup and the European Cup with La Rochelle and now Toulon and that, mate. He just stepped onto the tee and absolutely slotted it down the middle. And I think we had a minute or so left to try and conjure something up, and we just couldn't do it. So that was a pretty tough one to swallow, to be honest, because we had high hopes to win that and jump up into the Premiership the following year. But yeah, one man got in the way with a hell of a nudge.
After that, you returned back to Europe. In particular, you mentioned Barcelona before, Spain. Tell us about life there and footy.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's a great city. It's a great city. So I was pretty lucky that having gone back to the UK after that season, I was in with Ealing for a little bit in London, and I was actually just living with a guy, and I was kind of looking like I'd bounced around a little bit, to be fair, and like seen some different environments and played some different rugby and enjoyed all of that. And I just got into do a little bit of coaching, and I was actually looking to try and find a contract or just a team in Hong Kong to go and play for, which was a little bit close. I thought, oh yeah, that's halfway home, but I'll be able to have a look around Asia, Southeast Asia a little bit while I'm over there. And it proved a little bit tougher. It just took a little bit longer to find a club than I was hoping for. And I was chatting to a couple of guys in that. And in the meantime, I was actually living with a Scottish guy who was a rugby agent. Well, is a rugby agent. And he was just sort of cutting his teeth, but he goes pretty good now. And I came home one day and goes, mate, you want to go to Barcelona, play coach over there? And didn't take much convincing. So yeah, jumped on a plane and off I went, thinking I was going to be able to learn Spanish and all that, not realising that they're pretty hearty Catalans there. And yeah, it was complicating, but it was good times. So I spent a couple of years with Sampoyana, which is the oldest club in Spain. There's a few Kiwi boys there. There's a couple of guys from there, a bit of a Palmerston North connection, a Manawatu connection, having some old coaches from there. So there's a couple of Palmy boys playing there. And it was all good sort of until COVID kicked in, and then things got a little bit tricky. But yeah, it's another story.
Yeah, crazy times, that we're sure. Let's wind back the clock, right back to the year 2000. St. Pat's Silverstream. You're pretty much the greatest sportsman.
We're going way back.
Right back. Yep. They're probably the greatest all-round sportsman I've seen when I was at school. Well, how difficult was the choice between going the rugby way or the cricket way? Because you were pretty good at both.
Oh, there were some pretty good sportsmen around as well. I would definitely not say that about myself. I know Victor Vito was floating around, and he was playing first 11 cricket for Scots and throwing shot puts and running over the top of anybody that got in his way. But no, I played, so I was pretty, well, as you're aware, mate, we spent a bit of time pounding the pavement together back at high school. So I was pretty keen on athletics and played a lot of cricket growing up as well in the summertime, obviously. And I guess, I don't know, I think I got to a point where with cricket that I just wasn't that good at batting. I always thought I was a pretty handy wicket keeper, and I really loved that side of cricket. When it came to batting, mate, I was all right, but I didn't think I would have ever been able to like make that. I played a little bit of like men's club cricket, and I was either like opening the batting or batting at the bottom, and I never got any runs or anything. So for me, rugby was probably always like the natural way to go if I was going to try and make a fist of it.
And you had the unique honour of being captain
I
of both.
probably could have gone the other way, to be fair, because instead. Oh, sorry, mate. I was just going to say, it's in hindsight, chasing Summers is probably a better idea than chasing Winters, but
True.
No, it's been good fun.
You had the honour of also being the captain of both the first 15 and the first 11. It's a pretty rare achievement to be the captain of both top teams at Silverstream.
Yeah, I don't actually think I've captained many teams since, to be fair. So got them all out the way early, it seems like.
What was your best game for the first 15? And how many games did you play?
For the first 15?
Yeah, going.
Oof. Mate, you can't. I'm having to dig pretty deep in the well here to think about some of these. I remember, like, one of the first games I played for the first 15 in fifth form was against Wellington College at the stadium before the All Blacks. And, like, I was playing, like, 55As in third form and third 15 in second form. So to go to that, like, was a bit of a step up for me. And we took them pretty close, but I think they pipped us at the end as well. That was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed that game, like, sort of thinking back. There's not too many that I still remember a lot about my first 15 rugby, and I still tell guys today, like, I think there's nothing that really compares to playing with your mates against other schools with all your mates watching. Like, those traditional games are just something else. And some of those, I remember we played St. Bede's one day, and they came on a flight from Christchurch that morning, and they got caught in I don't know if it was foggy or whatever, but there was a delay on the plane, and they showed up about 20 minutes before kickoff. And I think they were still on the plane. Like, we beat them 20-0 or something like that, which was a good one. And another game against Plymouth Boys, that was in my sixth form year. And I think Leo Vata, who was captain at the time of that team, like, he went on a rampage that day. And there was one point he just got the ball, he picked it up off a scrum. The call was like to spin it wide off the backs, and he just did his own thing. He ran through half the team, went all the way, and if he didn't score himself, he just gave a little offload a metre before the line to a winger who was in his pocket. And I just remember going to grab the ball and looking up, like, there was about four guys. He just left a path of destruction of about four guys on the floor, and he just ran over top of them, and the physios didn't know where to go at that point, but we beat Palmy North that day as well, and that was a good one.
It's a few weeks. Next week is the big game between Hutt and Batoni, the McBain Shield. You've played in a few of those.
Yep.
Tell us about playing in the state of origin of the Hutt Valley.
The state of O, eh? Funny you say that. I'm obviously in Gold Coast, and state of O tonight, so pretty keen to soak that up over here and see what that's like. My first McBain, I think we had Pity Whipper was playing number 9. Ricky Flutie was playing 10 for Petone. There was a couple of other sort of high quality players in the mixer there as well. I think, again, we scored with a couple of minutes to go and kicked the conversion to go in front, and then right on the buzzer, someone bloody put their fingers in the cookie jar, and one of the refs pulled us up, and Ricky Flutie, he had a conversion, or a penalty rather, from the corner. And, like, mate, the ball was literally touching the paint and the touchline. And again, much like High West did to us for Lions, he just banged it down the middle. We lost that one, but we won a couple while I was there. And I don't know, there's always something a little bit extra about that game. You always want to get one over Petone, so it's always good when you do.
What advice would you give to a club player that's looking to go overseas and do what you have done?
I think these days, wow, there's you can go and do a lot of things as a rugby player. Like, there's a lot of different opportunities. Like, if you want to go and be sort of have a crack at it professionally, then it's quite tough to get over to like the UK. Those at the minute, as you see, like rugby's financially is in a bit of a weird place over there at the minute, especially in the second division. There's not a lot of money floating around, but in terms of if you just want to go over in Spain, like, it's a great experience. I know there's a couple of guys from NZ that I came up across not that long ago, just sort of the back end of last season, that were over here having a crack and coming back to play ITM, and they were having a hell of a time. Like, it's a huge sort of culture change to what we're to growing up like in the Hutt Valley. Like, Europe is just a different beast, and all I really wanted was an opportunity to like get some free flights somewhere, and maybe someone who was going to like find me a job and allow me to do a little bit of travel. And yeah, I was lucky to probably get a little bit more than that in terms of being able to play and get paid for it for a little bit. But if you do want to use rugby as that kind of vehicle to see the world, to explore a little bit, like rugby clubs, like, it's the best place for it as far as I'm concerned. Like, you arrive somewhere, you've got 30 mates instantly or whatever, and rugby communities are always very welcoming, and they'll sort you out, like, and look after you, from my experience and from most people I speak to. And everyone loves a Kiwi to come over and play as well. So there's definitely opportunities for that. And if people are planning to travel and casting it a bit wider than the Hutt Valley, than Wellington, then like, I think it's an awesome way to do that.
Well, Jonny, it's been fantastic having you on the Huddy Hui tonight. It's 20 years since we finished school. Next year, might have to do a reunion or something next year, maybe.
Mate, I've actually been thinking about that, eh? And as soon as you're sort of part of the old boys committee, I thought you might have something up your sleeve or organising already, but I was thinking, shit, 20 years.
Oh, I know.
Probably should.
Yeah, probably should. All good, Jonny. Well, you
I don't know if they've gone quick or they've gone slow, but
who knows? The body's aching more. So, all right, we'll leave you to it, Jonny.
Yeah,
have a good rest of your night and enjoy State of Origin.
Up the Maroons, eh?
Yep, go Maroons.
Thanks, Brad, mate. I appreciate it. Great.
Cheers, Jonny. And it's Jonny Bentley. Fantastic listening to his rugby story, and particularly what he's achieved, particularly over in Europe. And he had the opportunity later in his career to play for the Wellington Lions. So fantastic to see him doing well and still giving back to the game. As mentioned at the start of the broadcast, there were a series of traditionals on today. There was the big one down in Christchurch. Christchurch boys beating Christ, I believe, from that game. Up here in the North Island, though, Silverstream had a big win against New Plymouth Boys High School, winning 34 points to 17. It was only 10-5 at half-time to New Plymouth, so they must have got a big rack up there. It's very hard to win at the Gully. Silverstream coming away with a good win. Wellington College won back the Heron Cup and the Scarf, beating Rongotai College 60-0. That's a bit of a big score, that one. Mana College hosted Hatopolda in their midweek traditional, and they won 18 points to 13. Now, this other traditional was played in Hastings today, and it's been 19 years in the making. St. Pat's Town went down to St. John's Hastings, 22 points to 17. It's been 19 years since St. John won that traditional, and it was good talking to John Bishop, former teacher at St. Pat's Town, an old boy of St. John's who now teaches there. They're over the moon up there in Hastings, so a great result there for St. John's. For the rest of the first 15 competition, their games are on Saturday. Mana hosts Wairarapa College at 1 o'clock. Town versus Scots, Stream versus St. Bernard's, and Hutt International versus Tawa. All those games are at 2:30 this Saturday. And of course, the Swindale Shield. Now, we're getting into the business end now. Round 10 out of 13. And we've got some massive games this weekend. Porneki have Old Boys University at home. Avalon versus Oris. Upper Hutt versus Jayville. This is the Johnsonville Hawks, who are just on fire. They beat Tawa last week. It was about 17 years since they last beat Tawa in that match. Wainui versus Norths. Tawa versus Huddle Boys Marist. History always shows that's always a beauty of a match, that one. Tawa back at home after being on the road for 3 weeks. Parramatta Plymouth versus MSP. Parramatta Plymouth top of the table. And a win against Marist St. Pat's will keep them there. Our game this weekend on Huddy Sports is Petone versus the Wellington Axemen. Coverage starts on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. with a 2:45 kickoff. And that game has been played at the Hutt Recreational Ground due to the Petone Rec. One, the grandstand being closed for some bureaucratic nonsense about the grandstand being an earthquake risk. And the other reason is because the Petone Rec took a massive hiding from all the rain over the last few weeks, particularly last Saturday. Jack Ross could barely see for Petone. He had to get water bottles sprayed out of his eyes multiple times during that game last week against Wainui. And of course, next week, we lead up to the state of origin of the Hutt Valley. It's McBain Shield week next week. And next Wednesday, we will have our McBain Shield preview at 7 o'clock. And we'll be hoping to have Petone halfback Cam Ferreira here on the Huddy Hui. We may even try and get the McBain Shield here in the Huddy studio. So that's on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And then on Thursday, the 8th of June, we're having another Huddy Hui at 7 o'clock on that day. And we're going to be doing it live from the Wellington Axemen club rooms. They have requested Huddy Sports and the Huddy Hui to come in and do a Huddy Hui there at their club rooms. And it's going to be with a live audience as well. The first time ever we'll be doing it for a live audience. So that should be a great occasion. So 2 Huddy Huis next week. Wednesday the 7th of June, a McBain preview. And then the 8th of June, the Wellington Axemen Club Rooms episode of the Hui. And also, being McBain Shield week, we'll let you know now, Huddy Sports will be covering McBain Shield again for 2023. And that's going to be a real beauty. Petone currently sitting 4th. Hutt lost their first 4 games of the season. And now they're on their way back after posting some big wins. So it's going to be a fascinating finish to the first round of the Swindale Shield. Round 10 of 13. It's going to be brilliant. And it's going to be fantastic. So there's the Huddy Hui for tonight. Many thanks to our guest, Jonny Bentley. Fantastic listening to his story. And I'm Brad Hudson. Ciao for now.